Now we have Karima. So I told you that Karima is the Washington, D.C. community lead. So she builds a great community out in D.C. I'm going to speak like a campus person. So with Howard and with Morgan State and Baltimore. And yeah, really cool. So, okay, so Karima is going to be talking about how to get involved in your local tech community. Because, I mean, you know, sometimes it's a journey. Just how do I get involved with my local tech community? I know there's meetup.com, but we're going to give you some specifics about this blockchain tech community. Thanks, Karima.
Okay, thank you. So, I'm talking about building community. And my title at Consensus is DC Community Lead. But, you know, really, like, what does that mean? Like, what is really building community, and, like, why is it important to tech? Well, for me, I like just a little bit of a background. I always was intimidated by coding and tech, a little bit too lazy. And so I never learned about it, but I always was near it. So I did marketing for the healthcare exchange established by Affordable Care Act in DC. I did a lot of marketing for a Microsoft company. So I always was right by it, but not doing it. You can look good doing that. And so that was really my life, and I became very comfortable doing that and very good at it because I really love people. And Meetup was one way in DC that I was able to connect with the tech community and learn about different opportunities that were happening. And it was really important for me to go to these meetups because, I mean, it was, not that many of us there, but it was still a really good experience. Everybody was open. And I'm going to assume that it's like this in many places, but if you go to a meetup and you want to learn, somebody will be there willing to teach you. Somebody will be there willing to help you and mentor you there for free. And I wasn't able to find exactly that because it wasn't like I was going there to learn how to code, but I was able to understand how inclusive the tech community could be, especially in Washington, D.C., and especially when it was coming to meetups. And so, what does that mean is that we're all together and we're all trying to, we're all believing in something and we're trying to make it happen. And so we're showing up to these meetups and we're, using the app and joining the group and contributing to these things to make them happen. So I want to get into what it takes for me as far as my career right now, being a community builder at Consensus. We're made of sugar and spice and everything nice. That's all of our community team. Some people are here all the way in the back. But really, it's a lot that takes, a lot that goes into what we do. We do grassroots outreach. We do partnerships. We do event activations like things here. We do brand awareness, we do personal branding, and then we do online outreach. And those literally can also be each of their own job titles. So that just shows you how much people who are into the community put work into being able to connect with people and create something that have for you to come to so that you can learn from other people. So I want to talk about the attributes of being a community builder. And one of them is authenticity. I think that if you know yourself and that if you're confident in yourself and what you're doing, you'll be able to more likely land on your feet, or when you don't, getting back up won't be as hard. Understanding people is very important, and taking the time to understand people and be empathetic is very important if you want to be a part of a community. You don't have to be the community builder to have that attribute, but I think it's important to just have that characteristic of empathy and taking time to understand. So knowing your audience. I have a women in blockchain community, and then I have also just a general blockchain community. I know what things work for the women in blockchain community. I know what things that don't work for them. I know what communications work for them. I know they don't get on Slack a lot, but I know if I text them, they'll be on there. I know that the actual, the guys and the bros in the blockchain community, I can reach all of them on Slack. So knowing how to interact with people is very important. Consistency is important, so having a meetup for me once a week or once a month or bi-weekly, but continuing to come back with content is so important because people will fall off, and not because I'm not doing a great job or I'm doing a poor job. It's just because you need to have something for them to look forward to. Even and they'll always know, hey, the second Tuesday we'll be there talking about blockchain and so on and so forth. And organizational skills are very important. I'm still working on mine, but having a calendar or having like a system. So some systems for some people work fine, like Trello works for some people, Google Sheets works for some people. It really depends, but having all of that is like very important to being a community builder. So my next thing is that I want to know, like, how many people here have been to a meetup before? Everybody, probably why you here, because it's community. And also, how many people have like led a meetup before? Oh, that's really awesome. So I wanted to be able like to articulate that it's important for us in tech and for us as people of color in tech to be very, to be leading these meetups and to be leading the spaces where this is happening. So you don't have to be a software developer, even though there are software developers that lead meetups and that do the organizing and the people talking and all that good stuff. You can just like contribute by either being there, by volunteering, by contributing content, or by leading your own meetup. All these things are important for engaging the tech community because Leanna talked about boot camps, but you can learn how to code at a meetup if you go every week. You can learn how to do Python at a meetup if you go every week. In DC, if you're in DC, you can learn Ethereum at the meetup, All Things Ethereum, if you go every 2 weeks when we have the meetups for free. And there are people who will teach you that for free. And I think that's one thing that's important for our community is to be able to provide those resources for free and make them easy to get to and accessible so that people can actually take advantage of those opportunities. So you want to get involved. I feel like everybody can get involved to the different levels that I talked about. But I think you can start small. So I don't think that like you have to be a full out community advocate person, marketer. Like you don't have to do all of that. When I started with meetups, I actually got into blockchain because my boyfriend, at the time he wasn't, but now he is, he was like, buy Bitcoin. And I was like, what? Like I called him about doing some scheme with advertising because I was working in advertising, so I know how to get clicks for stuff. And I was like, okay, let's do this and get some clicks. And it's like, we were trying to hustle. So he was like, no, just get Bitcoin. And I was like, what? And so I got it, and I got on Meetup, and I found a Meetup group. And actually Shapeshift was hosting their first meetup, so it was pretty popular. And this is like at the beginning of the bull run, so before the price, literally right before the price had like skyrocketed and all that good stuff, like basically like a year ago. And it was really helpful for me just to start slow, to just go to the meetups that I could, but I was thirsty, and I saw that this was a really good opportunity in industry for me to break into, to piggyback off of what Robbie was saying. Like, you don't have to be technical to get in this industry because we need people in literally every facet that you can think of, every industry vertical, every position. Every company needs those people to run. You can't just run from software off of software developers. Like, that would be a nightmare. Just saying. No offense to my software developers, but it takes like a diverse thought and like lots of different people, like business acumen, like-minded people, and then also people who are thinking of the community that the tool was supposed to serve. So that's kind of like what I'm doing here at Consensus. So I think starting small is important, but at least getting involved is important. And wherever you are as a person of color, at least like volunteering for these meetup groups is important. It's actually how I got my job here at Consensus. I volunteered for a group. Then I didn't like the meetups, and I was like, you're not doing it right. So I started doing meetups, and then the group asked me, and I thought the guy didn't like me, the guy running the group, and then one day he was like, Karima, would you like to lead this group? And I was like, Mom, he asked me to lead the group. And it was great because it's like the third biggest meetup group in the country for blockchain. And I was like, oh my gosh. So it was exciting to lead the group and to like, be able to have the opportunity. And I think he's an older white guy, and I think what he was trying to do is put women in the face of it, because the last woman that led the group, she started off doing meetups and stuff like that, and now she does UI UX for Deloitte. So like anybody that comes and like runs that group is just like, you get the golden ticket a little bit. We work hard for it, but you get to pass off, and you get that experience. So this is kind of a talk about community building, but also about how I was able to bridge into the tech world without having to have such a technical position. So of course we want you to start slow, and then, I love puppies so much. So then basically dig in, and digging in is like, just coming up with content, having suggestions, giving feedback to the meetup organizer, showing up every week, bring other people. I have a friend named Rupert who brings his children to the meetups, and I love it because they need to be able to soak in information, even if they're on their iPads half the time. I think it's important still to dig into some extent, and whatever level of commitment that you're able to do, have some level of commitment to it, because just as important as going online and just going to Google University and YouTube University and like learning stuff about blockchain, when you're in the community, you can actually like talk to people face to face who know things about blockchain that you might not know. I remember like learning about Ethereum, and I had a hard time like really figuring out what gas was until I was at the meetup, and this guy like was like, okay, so each line of code has to run, and then each code needs gas to run. Like, I mean, he just was explaining it to me, and I was like, oh, so now I understand. And so now I'm understanding why it cost gas for me to send this place or send money or whatever, ether this place. And having someone be able to talk to you about these things is sometimes easier for you to digest what it is, and then when it's a face-to-face conversation. Also, having a diverse thought of what's happening in the community, it makes it better for you to form what you think is happening in the community. So you can hear one person that's completely against something, somebody else is completely for it, someone else in the middle, and take whatever you want and decide how you feel about it. That's how, a lot of the times, how I come to the conclusion of something's blockchain when I don't feel like a total expert. I try to learn both sides and then figure out like, where do I stand. And Meetup is an easy way to do that without going to Google, just showing up somewhere. It just becomes very easy. Now, say you want to organize your own Meetup. You want to get together a group of people who are like-minded. So meetup.com is very easy for that. I really like it because it's just the easiest tool right now. Like Facebook can be easy depending on who your Facebook friends are. And, like through college and high school, they just change. But I think getting a group of people together and figuring out like what serves you is most important when coming up with a meetup, and it being okay with it when it's being like super niche. Like I have a friend that runs an AI blockchain healthcare meetup in New York, and it's 3,000 people deep. And you wouldn't think 3,000 people care about AI, blockchain, and healthcare, but they do. And it started off with like a little group of people. And having a small group of people does not mean your meetup is not valid. It probably is more dope, for real, because you're getting to like have real good experiences with people. And I think that's how it should always start, unless like you get asked to run something else. I don't think a small group of people, I think is like the best way. But let you know like something should happen. When you're a meetup organizer, your venue cancels, your speaker disappears, your content is wrong. You have so many things that happen, but I think the most important thing really is like how you recover from those things. So you just got up. Like, I think how you recover from those as a leader and an organizer can be symbolic in how your community decides to follow you and chooses to come to stuff. And I've definitely made mistakes in being a meetup organizer and organizing the community, but I've definitely made more progress by just like getting up like, all right, well, that didn't work. And figuring out what did work and like what things I could do to contribute to my community. Lastly, I think what's really important is just like being there and like partnerships. So like having partnerships with other people. That was another way. If you're like more of a business development person, running a meetup is a great way to build partnerships with other businesses. I've been able to build a lot of partnerships within DC with like a lot of great tech companies. And like, I don't know if you guys heard of 1776, but that's one place that we have a really close tie with, and we have we're getting close with Microsoft, and we're getting close with a couple of other companies that want to partner and contribute to the meetup scene, and it makes you a more powerful individual. So I would always suggest that you go to a meetup or start a meetup if you want to brand yourself personally, or if you would just like to get involved in the community and like be a thought leader for what happens in that community. Because essentially it's your meetup. I mean, it's everybody else's meetup too. But if you're a person doing the bread and the butter, you kind of have the autonomy to control what's happening. And that's kind of what I do in DC. For the blockchain group meetup, I don't really tell people you can't do this. I just won't entertain people who are trying to sell some people some stuff. I won't entertain people who are not invested in the community. I won't entertain people who won't pay for food or drinks. Like, you supposedly raise like $3 million and you can't spend $100 on food. Like, I don't believe that that's a sustainable way. And I think partnerships has like been a really important part of my success in DC. And that's really it. That's my life as a community lead in DC and also as a meetup organizer and meetup builder. I also want to give a plug to myself as being DC on Fire 50 people, and I got an award for the amount of meetups. So this year I've done now it's been 35 meetups since February, and that doesn't count other events, but those are the events that I've led. So you can do it too, my Black people and other people of color. And yeah, so you can contact me at karima.williams@consensus if you have any questions. Also on Twitter at Bitcoin Bay. I got that early, yeah. And so thank you.
Thanks, Karima.